I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining our second ETIN Seminar on Innovation-Enhancing Procurement. The last one was very interesting. That's why our expectations or hopes are even higher for this one, but I'm sure that we'll be able to meet them because we have an exciting topic today. We have exciting case examples. And before I hand off to our dear ETIN members and task force leaders, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Jakob, Lina, but also John, Mikel, who've done a great work in organizing this and setting it up and bringing everyone together. And thank you, obviously, to Annie, to Kafka, to Dimitri, to Magne for joining us as speakers today. So without further ado, welcome everyone, and I look forward to the discussions. Over to you, Jakob and John Mikel.
Thank you very much. This will be really interesting. My name is Jakob Lindvall, and together with Lina, who are with us online, I know for sure, but she's on an airport at the moment. We took this initiative half a year ago maybe, but I would like to say that this is very much a collaborative effort to understand more about innovation-enhancing procurement and learn from each other, and from that derive new knowledge, so to speak. And very much thank you to you, Jon Mikel, because you have been really instrumental to this. So for this meeting, I will let's say chair the seminar with some slides and give you introductions. And Jon Mikel, you are definitely the one who maybe from an expert point of view know the context very well. So we will make the best of helping out. So please let me start by sharing slides. So this is always interesting. Can you see my slides?
Yes,
it's working good, Jakob.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so today we are going to learn from experience from Georgia and from Norway, and we also know that you have been collaborating and exchanging some knowledge regarding this. And the agenda looks like this. First, we will have a small introduction, so we know about the context, why we're here, to hear about the Georgian experience and what you have done and what you have learned so far, and what you see in front of you, and also the Norwegian experience, where you are at the moment, what you have learned and what you see in front of you. But most of all, actually reflections and discussions together. That's basically what we are going to do. And let's say that we have roughly 20 minutes for listening to the Georgian experience and 20 minutes for the Norwegian experience, and then some 45 minutes to joint discussions. First of all, just the context. So this is a work stream on innovation-enhancing procurement within ETIN. And maybe you, Emanuela, just briefly would like to explain about ETIN and the context.
Happy to. Sorry, more than happy to. Thanks for the great introduction, Jakob. And yeah, so ETIN is the UNECE Transformative Innovation Network, for those of you who may not know us yet. And we are a strategic platform and meeting place for what we call peers, to come together to gather insights, gather some foresights, but also consult, collaborate, and co-create around the topic of transformative innovation. So this is based on the ongoing work of our members, the insights that we create together through our activities, but also some written outputs that we're developing with our experts. So under our network, I mean, transformative innovation is a big topic. So we have several work streams focusing on specific topic areas, one of which is this wonderful work stream on innovation-enhancing procurement, led by Jakob and Lina, where we look at, what is the potential of innovation-enhancing procurement to really facilitate larger, broad-scale transformations. So I'll pass back to you, Jakob, maybe a little bit more on the specifics of this work stream.
Yes, so in this work stream we have a task force where some of you are already members, and what we have said is that we want to learn more and we want to create a deeper insight and some guidance regarding how to use innovation-enhancing procurement effectively, and especially focusing on the demand side of using innovation-enhancing procurement, because what we want to do is, of course, to create an uptake of innovations created by IEPs and create impact, because we are striving for solving joint goals for the world. So it's really much about focusing on the demand side. And also how governments can use innovation-enhancing procurement as a tool to create, open up new markets, and actually use this as a tool also for development of new ventures and the private sector. And of course that we have national context, so we really need to understand how to adapt EEP methodologies to different contexts. So that's about it. Very much of the inspiration for this work stream actually derives from the work done within the UNECE with, for example, innovation policy outlooks. And especially in this case, now I know my camera is blurred actually, but what I'm holding here is the Jon Mikel, you are nodding. So this is actually the yeah, exactly.
We have a big screen, it becomes even more blurred.
Can you please explain, Jon Mikel, what is this?
Well, yes, this is the first handbook that was written for the case of Georgia when we started working back with them and with Dr. Haha and his team at the State Procurement Agency in Georgia back in 2019. They requested to the UNECE that they wanted to start working on innovation-enhancing procurement, and they asked for some help. So then, together with the colleagues at the UNECE, we did a country visit to Georgia, where we made some interviews, and then we started making some proposals to them. And as a result of that work, which took a couple of years, we edited this handbook, where we're providing some guidelines on how innovation-enhancing procurement could be established and could be rolled out initially in the country. And then as a result of that handbook, we made this country visit to Norway, which is the reason why we wanted to organize this session today, to share the practices back in 2022, when we met in September 2022 in Norway, and the two countries met. And then they exchanged some ideas on what was the situation in Norway back then 2 years ago and what was the situation in Georgia. And then as a result of that, Georgia and the colleagues from Georgia with Kaha on top will explain actually what's the situation at the moment and the regulation that they have established, and then the new law that they have on public procurement, etc., and how they are working on innovation procurement at the moment. So yes, that handbook was the very first step in this process.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Jon Mikel. And this, so what you have done in Georgia and in Norway is really important for us to understand, that to build upon. So the aim with this work stream is then to deliver after the summer a policy brief, which will be very practical oriented, which means that we want to make a policy brief that is easy to understand and implement basic steps, and to use that within the UNECE and ETIN network. And then also in conjunction to that, the strategic roadmap with some kind of step-by-step description on how to do this. So that's the context so this seminar is of course interesting in itself, but it's also in a broader context where we want to use the learnings that we derive together to take the next steps in innovation-enhancing procurement. So that's basically why we're here. And as we said, we are about to listen to the experience from Georgia and then from Norway. So why don't we start with the experiences from Georgia? And
maybe,
yes?
sorry, Before we start, Jakob, yeah, I just wanted to quickly note that we want to, make this interactive as possible, but also for the later on discussions. There's a Q&A function on the top bar of your screen. If you click on it, then please insert any questions that you may have on what you hear now, because then we would gladly like to come back to it as well. Just so everyone knows before we head into the presentations.
Yeah, that's really good.
If I may, then I will start.
Yeah.
Good day, everyone. So it's always a pleasure to meet you online and physically, and many thanks for inviting us, sharing our experience, what we've learned with your support, and what we identified in Norway. But before that, we with Kaha decided to structure our intervention like that. I will represent the agency, what we are doing, how it was connected with the public procurement agency, and how we benefited with the TA and the study tour which was provided by the UNECE. I represent Georgia's Innovation and Technology Agency. This agency is supervised under the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia, and was established in 2014. Since that, we are main coordinators and mediators building innovation ecosystem in the country. It includes innovation policy implementation, innovation infrastructure development, innovation services, and of course, access to finance mechanisms as well. We started and we adopted law on innovation, which was adopted in 2017, and it was with the great support of the European Union, UK, and US strategic partners. And then the definition of innovation in Georgia is in compliance with the OECD definition. So with that, we identified this definition in our national law as well, and then we started designing the specific programs. And if you can imagine, 10 years ago, we were also working in a startup mode. So post-Soviet country with 2 occupied regions, and people really did not have this entrepreneurial mindset, or all the research institutions were just operating with some post-Soviet drive, and we really wanted to push them to innovate more and to design these globally scalable startups and ideas. And also we really wanted to identify such kind of Georgian technologies which could be integrated in the global value chains. So with that purpose, we were really open for any external evaluation. Of course, European Union was our great supporter, and they contributed us with 2.8 million euro, with which we designed first technology transfer pilot project within our agency, and also World Bank was a great contributor. And now we are, after 10 years, we are running all the programs with the national budget, but still the guideline, the monitoring and evaluation system, and all this mechanisms are in compliance with the World Bank rules, and we adapted it at the national level. And then UNECE was suggested to conduct external evaluation. It was Innovation Policy Outlook, which is really successful. And if my colleagues from the Eastern Partnership countries and the countries where this kind of exercise was not conducted, I strongly suggest to conduct this, because I remember the time when there was no understanding in Georgia how the ecosystem was functioning. So who are actors, connectors, and ecosystem builders? And sometimes those actors and connectors like have this complementarity perspective between each other, and they don't have understanding how it works. So this was a really successful exercise. We gathered the data from the different actors, and I was a national contact point for that particular project, as I'm head of international and donor relations department. And then with that data, we benefited with another review, but it's not the main document which we want to bring today. It was also innovation review for sustainable development, conducted again by the UNECE. So from those two exercises, UNECE team suggested that, look, when we would have this outcomes and the structure, what are the strengths and weaknesses in Georgia, let's create a TA. And I was also like suggesting that, look, Georgian team worked really hard and we really want some tangible outcome, and let's do something for the specific agencies. And also KAHA is our great partner. She is like actively working with us with different directions. And in this report, and also besides with the report, we knew that the government procurement is a huge market for Georgian startups. So it's a market, and I also I'm a professor. I'm giving lectures in entrepreneurship, and when I am telling my students that B2G model, I don't like B2G model so far because it's complicated, and business to government is always like depends on something, and startups has like more global ideas. And I will when we will speak about the Norway's experience. Then I saw in Norway that it really works, and they have some very smart ways giving grants, like then giving markets for the procurement with the government procurement. But so far, like we didn't have this understanding. I mean, the startups they didn't have this opportunity to participate in the government procurement processes. So with KAHA, we identified this part, and then I think he will speak with the details what was done. That UNECE team provided the handbook, which was really helpful, and also provided the study tour in Norway, and 4 people from Georgia State Procurement Agency visited Norway together with us, me and the head of our legal division department, legal division, and and it was the right place and right time because Georgia's Public Procurement Agency was working on the new law. And as you are well aware, Georgia, by that now is a candidacy country, but by that time we were associate member, and we really had this commitments like in compliance with the association agreement to review and to revise the current public law. So KAHA will speak about in general the impact and what is happening in the procurement ecosystem in Georgia. And then maybe I will also intervene with some outcomes which we really had during the study tour in Norway. So I'm really happy to answer your questions afterwards, and with that I will give floor to KAHA.
Well, good afternoon, or good afternoon to everybody. My name is KAHA. I am Deputy Chairperson at the Georgian Public Procurement Authority. Well, very sorry for repeating of some points or issues from John, Mikel, and Annie's already speeches or something, but still we have to discuss, I would say, the Georgian story. What happened? On kind request of GITA, Georgian Innovation and Technology Agency, we were a few years ago, we were involved in development of this review innovation for sustainable development. Actually, everything starts from that time. I would like to highlight that the separate chapter 5, was dedicated to the public procurement ecosystem in the country. Assessment, revision, relevant comments and recommendations have been drafted. So chapter 5, public procurement as a driver of innovative development. It was a great chapter, but the beauty, I would say, of the Georgian story is that at that time, we were developing several, let's say, policy papers and several laws. This was the great momentum, I would say. The Georgian government, with leadership of the Ministry of Finance, was developing the new public finance management reform strategy for the next several years. The Georgian government, leading by the Ministry of Economy, was developing or was running a country assessment and then developing the policy paper for a transition to the circular economy. The Georgian government, leading by the Ministry of Economy, and sure all of us, we are involved in developing of the so-called green growth strategy by support, with support of the World Bank Group. And this is one of the, let's say, main policy papers of the country. And according to our commitments to the association agreement, or under the association agreement with European Union, we were drafting the totally new public procurement law. Totally new, what does it mean? We are canceling actually we decided to destroy the all previous public procurement ecosystem in the country, not to make amendments, not to introduce a lot of amendments, but to have a fully new primary and secondary legislation, totally. And you can imagine, well, I have to underline that the Georgian public procurement, let's say, model is still very much advanced. From 2010, we have a totally covered electronic procurement system. We are covering all public procurement transactions. Annually, we are running up to 200,000 different public procurement operations just via electronic system. We are covering everything. Each penny is a system. We have no threshold, we have no preferences, and so on and so on. So still we are very much advanced, but we decided to, let's say, destroy everything. Sure, I'm joking, canceling, but introducing the fully new legal landscape, and modernizing system. And this was the great momentum, and this was the great partnership with the UNECE team, and I appreciate much this great partnership and great help and great support. So I describe the context of this momentum, of this intervention, I would say. And as Annie mentioned, it was great support and great help from UNECE in the drafting, helping us, let's say, to develop this legal landscape on the 3 levels. In my country here, we are considering 3 different dimensions, 3 different levels of the legal landscape. So primary law, secondary legislation, and the so-called soft law. So with support of Professor John Mikel. He helps us even in drafting of the primary law. So we had already the draft. We shared with him kindly, and he kindly advised us on new editions of several articles. So this was the first and main, I guess, output from this support, from this program, from this technical assistance, that UNECE team helps us in re-editing of the relevant articles of the public procurement law. Well, you know better than me that the new generation of the EU directives on public procurement, generation 2014, they have no concept of innovation enhanced procurement, actually. Everything is going under the procedures and tools of the basic classic directive. Just recognized the 7+1 procedure and 4 tools. And one of the main procedures is so-called innovation partnership. And in order to cover all, let's say, innovation enhanced procurement concept, those, let's say, benefits, advantages of this concept that is promoting by UNECE, we decided to integrate, to combine, to introduce under the innovation partnership procedure and under the innovation partnership articles. So we have special chapter, 2 chapters in the law, procedures and tools, and we put those innovation enhanced procurement concept, let's say, dimensions under those 2 chapters. The next important intervention was regarding the secondary legislation. So we have prepared the huge, up to 100 pages, the pieces of the secondary legislation describing innovation partnership and competitive dialogue procedures and how to use and how to integrate innovation enhanced procurement concept under those bylaws. The next point, next dimension was so-called soft law. In order, still it's so complicated, you know, even in a lot of EU member states are not fully covering the EU directives. Those are so complicated provisions, a new regulatory framework, and the Georgian contracting authority, economic operators, they do need a lot of manuals, handbooks, guidelines, instructions, users guides, methodological recommendations, and calculators, and a lot of, let's say, we call them soft law tools. And with support of John Mikel, UNECE team, actually we together agreed on the structure of this handbook, and Professor John Mikel kindly elaborated this huge handbook. And I have to actually just to mention even main chapters like general public procurement role, and we decided in the general description to focus also on the green public procurement concept and energy efficiency public procurement concept. That is extremely important for my country. So we are trying, if you remember, the philosophy of sustainable public procurement, it's green public procurement and energy efficiency public procurement or energy efficient are considering under the concept of SPP. Then the next chapter was challenges and lessons learned. It's this description of the best international practices, and it was very much warm welcomed by the contracting authorities especially. And then we have a huge chapter on the real cases, real practical cases. Well, public procurement operations are, let's say, field of the policy covered and running by practitioners. We are each day dealing with the real deals, with the real operations, real practices. When the kids needs breakfast in the kindergarten or school, we have no time for a philosophy, or we have no time for a, let's say, even mid-term or long-term strategies or something thinking. So we are on daily basis running hundreds and hundreds open electronic tenders and hundreds of the, let's say, single source procurement or direct procurement in case of emergency and so on. And that's why we kindly request to focus on the best European or best international practices, and we have great description in this hand. Next, we are, let's say, centralized public procurement regulatory body. We are functioning as a CPB in the country. We have a lot of other functions and authorities. And one of our main authority is to train contracting authorities and economic operators. We have training center under the structure. Fortunately, I am supervising this unit as well. And this handbook was based on this handbook developed by UNECE and Professor John Mikel. We have developed the special training module, and we are using, let's say, extracts, materials, docs, cases, showcases from this handbook for our training sessions and training activities. So we have mandatory 5 different modules, and this handbook was widely used by our trainers during the ongoing training sessions. And also we have a lot of other events running, like seminars, workshops, symposiums, conferences, meetings, roundtables, regional meetings. We are a small country, but still we have to reach each municipality, each mountain village or school or kindergarten or even football or rugby club that are contracting authorities according to the budgetary law and budgetary code and according to the law. And that's why it was very much important actually I would say to transfer this knowledge, to transfer this state-of-art approaches into the daily training activities. Next, and the last, my point at least, is that we benefit very much from the study tour to Norway. You know also better than me that Norway still it's not member of the European Union, but they have approximate or transposed the EU directives, those generation of 2014. And that's why on one side, Norway is a super advanced country with a great economy and brilliant innovation, enhanced procurement cases. But on the other hand, they have still this piece of the EU acquis in place. And this was unique chance for Georgian to see how after the transposition of EU acquis, of pieces of EU acquis, and in this new legal landscape, new legal environment that we are gonna to introduce in the country, how it's possible still to procure under those strict still regulations, to procure the goods or services that do not exist. And this is a dilemma. This is a philosophical issue. Still very difficult to understand, difficult to clarify to public procurement practitioners that sometimes we are gonna to procure via those strict regulations and rules the goods and services that are not exist at all, that are innovative by context, by sense. And the next philosophical dilemma is how to move the mind and daily approaches from the, let's say, technical approaches to the functional specification, to the functional aim or goals. And let's say that we not gonna to describe the good or services that we are procuring, but no, we have to just set up the goal without estimated value of money or without some calculations and so on and so on. Though study tour, the leadership members of the senior management team of the agency were attending. Let's say mid-level management was attended. The colleagues from the JITA were attending. And I do believe that during this, I would say, combined study tour, we learn a lot. Because why I'm mentioning combined? Because we benefited very much from the colleagues from the government, from the public sector and agencies running different government procurement operations. We're benefiting from the university stories, and we're benefiting even from the Oslo Science Park or Technopark Science Park, even from those practices and the workshops. We saw the workshops, we saw the facilities, even in the Oslo Science Park, how it is running in reality. I loved very much the pictures and videos, especially with the videos of some. I'm engineer by my education profession and by my mind, and I loved very much sure any tools, and it was great video of the innovative snow cleaning truck that was not exist for the airports. And now even why I'm mentioning this story, that because I am repeating already several years this story, I am telling to my students at the university, and sure using this exercise in our training sessions for our beneficiaries, and so on and so on. So well, in brief, if I have still a couple of minutes, in brief, we benefiting very much in assessing the Georgian ecosystem. We benefiting from this review on innovation for sustainable development. Then based on those assessment provisions, we benefiting from the drafting of the provisions of the primary law, then secondary law, then soft law, then develop the training modules, and then benefiting from the unique, absolutely unique experience, knowledge, and real operations from the colleagues from the Norway. So many thanks from my side on behalf of the agency. A big thanks to the UNECE team and to the Norway colleagues. Many thanks.
Thank you very much for that. I think a lot of what you said is something that we also could elaborate upon in the joint discussion. And especially very interesting to hear how you are actually turning this policy into practice in real life, all the way down to the rugby and football teams out in the field. I think that's really interesting. Anne, is there anything you want to add from the Georgian experience before we go to Norway?
I will just with a Okay, I would say that in Norway, I liked most of all pre-commercial procurement, which is not really existed in Georgia, and Kaha has a strong arguments for that. But I really want to kind of push him use this format. That's okay. Gita liked
Annie,
this tool.
enough to smile. Do not need to push me. Enough to smile and no, it's not
because it was a fascinating
European.
tool which I identified.
Annie,
Yeah.
you have to refer to the European Council and European Parliament for adopting the EU directives. And unfortunately, EU Directive 2014/24, they have no those provisions on BCP. So
I do know your response, but still, it's like kind of affirmations that
Still you
Georgia would
like.
soon have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, then jokes aside, we can prolong the seminar. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything you want to add from Georgia experience before we go to Norway?
Not really. Let's
from your side, Dimitri?
Yes, actually, I would say a couple of things. I mean, not much as you have already mentioned, but talking about the innovative enhancing procurement, we have to underline that all these efforts would go through these reforms which we started from 2014 after signing of association agreement, and after this we started to reform whole public procurement ecosystem in Georgia. As you probably know, that we accomplished first phase of approximation successfully, and this was acknowledged by the European Commission. And now I think we are in the most difficult and the most challenging part, where we need to transpose an EU Public Procurement Directive number 24. In this respect, as you probably know, last year we already in February adopted, the Parliament of Georgia adopted new law, and the new law has new provisions according to EU Public Procurement Directive, and it introduces different procurement methods, including innovative procurement. Even before this law was adopted, this study tool in Norway was very successful, as at that time we were engaged in the lawmaking process, and of course all those experience and information accumulated we successfully used in the lawmaking process. And also, besides the law, we are currently working on the bylaws, where all detailed procedures are described, procedures of new procurement methods. So this is very important. And also, besides this, Ministry of Economy initiated several years ago law on energy efficiency, and there is a certain provision in energy efficiency law regarding the public procurement. It means that we have to, even in the public procurement, we have to use energy efficiency principles and green procurement principles. All this is very connected to the innovative procurement, and all this is very new for us, because so far in conventional procurement, procuring entities were mostly using price criteria during the procurement process. And step by step, we are gradually, by reforming this public procurement sector, we introduce new procurement methods where procuring entities might not only focus on the price but also focus on the quality side. And by introducing the energy efficiency, green public procurement principles, and which also very connected to the innovative procurement, perception of procuring authorities is that this might increase cost of the goods and services. So in a way it might be true, but if we consider in a broad, if we look at this broad from broad point of view, then at the end of the day it would turn out that increased price is not always associated with the green and sustainable procurement, as generally conventional procurement, which it was mostly used, has a lot of externalities. So we have to consider all these factors when we are talking about this green and energy efficiency and innovative procurement. At the end of the day, this would be more beneficial for our society. And as it was rightly mentioned, that we have also a training center within our agency, and we are engaged all the time to train public procurement specialists, and we have more than 4,800 procuring entities. And imagine how many procurement specialists are in the country. So this is continuous process, and it's very challenging to bring to all of them these new reforms and explain about the benefits of new procurement methods and new approaches. So with our limited resources, we are really facing this kind of challenge, but still we need to move forward, and this is what we are doing at the moment. And as you probably know, that new law enters into force in 2025, and still this is a very challenging period for us, because this 4,800 procuring entities will start procurement process in completely different way according to the EU regulations. And yes, I mean, we are in a very interesting and at the same time in a very challenging moment. So in this respect, experience sharing and foreign international assistance is very important.
Yes. Thank you very much for that, Dimitri. And I think you are really pointing out some really key issues. And we would like to have some time for discussion of that later on. So thank you very much for that, Dimitri. What about listening a little bit to the Norwegian experience and with Magne? And please let me point out also that we would very much like to have time for discussions, and the question and answer chat is on if anyone have questions that you want to ask after the presentation of Magne, and then we can address questions both to Georgia and Magne, of course. But Magne, the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you, Jakob, and thank you, Emanuela and you, Mikel, for the invitation as well, and thank you to the very nice and kind words from my friends from Sakartvelo and you, Kaja. I will try to be very brief, so we have enough time for the discussion afterwards. But I'll aid myself with showing a presentation, and if I can get a thumbs up from you, Jakob, that it is showing. Yes.
Yes, it's working, Magne. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Magne, you got muted, sir?
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, now it's working.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mikel. So I'll touch upon these points. Firstly, how has innovation procurement developed in Norway and the current state? Also, of course, highlighting a few of the challenges we face, because not everything is laid out with roses and working perfectly. And lastly, also some lessons learned with a few recommendations. So I've sketched out here 3 periods. Starting with 2010. And of course, it doesn't happen in stages. It happens gradually and continuously rather than in milestones and turning points. But these make out sort of all right indications on the maturity and the movement of innovation procurement. Innovation in the public sector also took place before 2010, but 2010 marks an okay beginning when we're talking about innovation procurement, because that's when we saw a political shift, a more systematic approach to innovation procurement. And maybe especially so when it came to establishing specialized ecosystems and support functions for innovation procurement. We, for example, saw the Norwegian Supplier Development Program being established, tailor-made to focus on public and private partnerships and innovation procurement. In this beginning, the focus was mainly on innovation enhancing, or what we call innovation friendly procurement. It was starting in one end. And that meant that we made online guides, tried to assist on opening up for the possibility of innovation, especially then through focusing and encouraging open market dialogue, inviting the businesses in, asking them what kind of innovation is possible within this and this field. And as such, it was encouragement, it was sort of soft movement towards that of innovation, trying to establish some kind of cultural shift rather than the moon landing projects. Of course, we had some of those as well, but they were heavily assisted and sometimes politically asked for. So in general, and the major part was dealing with one step at a time. And that also came in the sense of a very heavy reliance on marketing and communication, letting procurers, letting municipalities know of this opportunity, and just making them aware of the fact that it wasn't necessarily illegal, something that a lot of the procurers in the traditional sense believed at that stage. Moving on, and maybe especially established by the new procurement legislation from the EU in 2014. As of 2015, we saw some shift towards sort of offering them a menu and a starting point for how we recommended every innovation procurement should take place. And that took the format of developing tools and processes that were standardized and made available for public procurers, and maybe nothing more so than the contract templates that were developed by us and made available to public procurers, and that is by now used in most of the innovation procurements, if not all, in Norway. And the benefit of those is, of course, that they're made in such a way that they adhere to the legislation, and the public procurers themselves do not need to be so afraid of committing errors when using these templates. Also very important in moving from that of having some kind of open market dialogue and an invitation to that of more tailor-made and specialized innovation procurement following the introduction of the new procedures from the EU, was the introduction of financial support mechanisms, lowering the risk for public procurers to try to embark on their first innovation procurements by offering financial support. We regard that as very important for the development of innovation procurement in Norway. And lastly, then, from 2018 till now, we see that we sort of have moved forward, but also in the sense of backtracking a bit, maybe the things we didn't do that well. And first and foremost, we had the establishment of ecosystems, but as of the last few years, we've seen the necessity to also extend a hand and enhance cooperations with already existing ecosystems, be it in different sectors or that of startup accelerators, startup hubs, and universities and so on, and in order to then extend our reach and following from point 2 when it comes to expanding the toolbox, establishing special programs to cooperate with startups to make it even more available and simple for them to use or to see the public sector as a potential market. But that, of course, demands that it's so simple and available for them that the risk involved is acceptable. And lastly, we see that after a lot of focus on all the time developing new innovations, we see that there has been a lack of adopting and commercializing of the innovation procurements that have taken place. So we often refer to it as innovation theater or pilot sickness. You develop something new, but no one is interested in adopting it after it's been successfully developed. So that of pushing the second mover is a focus for us right now. And also, we've been doing this for quite a few years now, and we see that there's increasing demand to show and document the effects of the innovation procurements that we've been involved in. If we're supposed to use time and resources and money on this, we need to document that we're actually succeeding in what we're doing in order to see that it's being continued and something that is worthwhile focusing on also for the next few years. So moving on to the status. The biggest number referred to when it comes to innovation procurement in Norway is that it's more than 400 projects since the start in 2010. But this also includes a lot of projects that are maybe not figuring in statistics internationally, and that is including best value procurement, including smaller pilot testing projects, and so on. So if we focus more on the more or less well-known procedures, we have 35 commercial procurement and 29 innovation partnerships since 2016, when was at the time when we managed to implement the EU directives. And talking about the innovation partnership, it's worthwhile noticing that all of these have received external funding, and I'll come back to that later. So this might seem like a big number, but in the total number of innovation procurements taking place in Norway, which is totaling up to 700 million euros a year, the innovation procurement as such is estimated to be around 1 to 2% of the total. The cultural status or the maturity of buyers is also important to reflect on. 15% of them in a new report says that they often use open specifications in their procurements, and 27% report to have been procuring a newly developed product the last 2 years, while 25% say that they have procured R&D services, meaning the process of developing something new within the last 2 years. These are high numbers, and we're now in the process of looking further into it. We believe that the actual number is somewhat lower than this. These are the numbers reported by the public procurement entities themselves. On the other side, only 24% of the public sector bodies feel they have sufficient skill set to do innovation procurement, and only 4% of them have included identifiable, measurable KPIs on innovation procurement in their strategies. So that's worthwhile noticing. Main challenges and next steps. I said that it's been incremental to have that financial support. Well, the current government in Norway has made some changes over the last few years with regards to the availability of funds. So now there's very few funds available that are tailor-made for innovation procurement. And I made reference to that all of the innovation partnerships have actually been performed using external financial help. So it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out with the pipeline of projects coming. For our part, then, this is making it increasingly important for us to try to have Norwegian public procurers being aware of the funding opportunities available in the EU, which we also are eligible for, and also trying to get a lot smaller projects established, because if you then have a fast track project costing 15,000 euros, that's something a lot more public procurers have the budgets to embark on than a 1 million euro project. So this is something also changing a bit the way we work. The public procurers themselves report that time, lack of human resource, innovation skill set, and financial limitations and management support are the top barriers for innovation procurement. So when we develop our tools and our training, we try to have a special focus on addressing these and having that top management dialogue in order to secure that, seeing that it's crucial in order to have more public sector, more of the public sector seek out innovation procurement. And although we've have more different types of collaborations established, it is a fact that innovation ecosystems and support mechanisms remain very fragmented and is often very difficult for the public sector to navigate. There's so many different specialized tools having their own mandate, and of course from a, let's call it, business perspective, they're very keen on trying to extend their market reach. So there's quite a high level of public sector competition on securing different projects for their program, and this sometimes is suboptimal in order to achieve the maximum effect as a whole. So that's something we need to be aware of. And it's, as already said, there is that need of being more systematic when we document the use and impact of innovation procurement. For a long time, there's been the saying that, oh, innovation takes time and innovation is not something you can measure easily. Well, we need to also change our own mindset in that respect in order to provide the evidence that what we're doing is worthwhile doing. And for using an example, for example, I said we have an estimate of 1 to 2% of innovation procurements being taking place every year as part of the total. That's an estimate, and now we are looking into AI usage in order to be more sure of the real use of innovation procurement, because our procurement portals as of now are not able to document that in a proper way. For example, you can use a design contest, and for us, it's too manually labor intensive to try to find out and map all of these in order to see, is it an competition for the architectural design of a new school, or is it innovation in order to design something new? So AI tools can help us in that way. Main lesson learned, especially in a decentralized system like Norway, where all the municipalities take care of their own procurements, it's very important to have that central support ecosystem in place. You can do skill sets and competence building with each public procurer, but innovation procurement should still be something you do in exceptional cases. So having all the public procurers there know innovation procurement is not a good investment. So investing in those support function is very important. Baby steps. Do not necessarily take everything at once, but try to build on experience, and experience is the only way to secure proper knowledge and learning. So do not start with the biggest and most complex project. Start with one step at a time and build from there. Quality tools. It remains too fragmented and error prone if everyone out there is doing it in the same way. Try to establish systems and support them with having templates that they can sort of fill in the blanks and not start from scratch every time. Put on a show. This is not traditional procurements, and it takes place in different ways. When communicating, trying to find the best and the coolest and most technology advanced companies out there, you need to sort of reach them by communicating differently. These are not sitting around on procurement portals waiting for a new contract to come. These are involved with trying to sell their products in other places. So you need to come to them. They will not come to you. That's important. And be positive. Try to highlight the positive potential changes. I'm now, after I finish this presentation, getting on the plane to fly to Croatia to assist with our training program for Croatian colleagues. And they often come back to that the reason why they don't do it, and we share the same EU legislation on procurement as they do, is that the legislation is difficult and they don't know it. But the reason for Norway performing a lot more innovation procurement than Croatia isn't because we know the legislation better than they do. I call myself an expert, but my procurements have been to court. It has happened and it will happen again. So focus on everything surrounding the legislation and not say that there's a no failure culture. You need to open up for this to also be acceptable and communicated, and work on focusing on the possibilities rather than the limitations. And try to secure those ambassadors, those leaders that sort of pave the way and say that, okay, we'll try, we will support this, and sort of have that top management involved. If it's all up to the individual procurement advisor, it will never happen. So it's not to be expected that the procurement specialists are the ones that are daring to sort of challenge the status quo. The top management needs to lead the way. So I think I'll stop there. And of course, we'll be able to share the presentation afterwards as well for distribution.
Thank you very much for that, Magne. And it's really thrilling to listen both to Team Georgia and from you in Norway, because it's obvious that dissemination of knowledge and training and changing mindset on ground level is key. That's really, really interesting to hear. And Let's talk a little bit of this, and we have this question and answers chat, or what we should call it, in Teams, where you can put questions or just raise your hands. Kafka, please. Please.
Thank you so much, Magne. Warm greetings from Sakartvelo, my friend. Yeah, happy to see you. Magne, 3 very quick questions. If you have any, you mentioned that you have during last year's 29 innovation partnerships. Do you have any edition collection of those cases, or can we find out those cases, description, even brief description of those cases somewhere? Any source? Would appreciate if then later on you have my email or via UNECE team can share the how can we benefit from those cases. The second question goes regarding the reporting. You mentioned that you have reporting channels from contracting authorities, right? How it works, I mean, what does it mean? Which channels you are using, and via which tools they are reporting? And the third, also half a question, what about the Croatia? You mentioned Croatia, that you are gonna to travel to help them. Do we have also a chance, Georgians, to welcoming you as well, and when and how, and what about the Croatian program? I mean, if it's possible to tell me this story. Many thanks in advance.
Thank you, Kaja. And yes, we do have an overview. I pasted it into the meeting chat now. It's not complete, but it's very good, dividing it into different procedures. Unfortunately, that page, that project overview is, as far as I know, only in Norwegian, but I've had success with just using the automatic web browser translation possibilities earlier, and it works quite well still. So I pasted the link into that, and the presentation of those different projects is also in many cases, not all, also accompanied by the different procurement documents, sometimes the contracts, different graphics, and so on. And they are, I'd say, at least 1 out of 4 are already in English. So it'll be available for you to read there. When it comes to the documentation and channels, if you meant channels to distributing information about the procurement themselves, it's might sound a bit naive, but there we use social media a lot. We use LinkedIn, we use different business forums, business magazine, we attend conferences and so on to distribute information about the procurements themselves. If you meant documentation on the effects and the results of the different procurements, that is something which is done in quite a few different ways. Of the already finished project, it's up to us to try to gather that information, and then we try to gather it in a quite wide selection of ways, measuring the business performance of the companies with the products. You know, how is their revenue changing? How is the number of employees they have changing? With regards to the effect of the public sector agency performing that procurement, it's more difficult. Then we have to sort of try to work with them with establishing the for example, the costs associated with that type of solution before and after. Or if it's dealing with road safety, how many accidents are happening now? If it's avalanche control systems, how many avoidance of people being caught in an avalanche, and so on. But that's harder. It's a bit adapted and developed for the individual projects. For new projects, it's easier, because then we already, when entering into that partnership, say that we need to establish reporting on the effects of what you're doing, and it's provides great discipline, because then we also avoid them entering into a project without having knowledge of what they want this solution to provide. Sometimes we had that in the past. Why are you embarking on this project? Well, because we got 1 million kroners from Innovation Norway. Well, what's the effects? Well, we'll have to see. That is not longer acceptable to us. It's a lot higher demands on identifying the KPIs of the procurement, and then we establish sort of a strategy and a system for that to monitor that and report back to us. Lastly, yes, the program for Croatian colleagues, that is an EU-funded project through the OECD, which is structural regional funds, where they see that Croatia is not performing very well on innovation, the innovation barometer. And we have then, together with the OECD, developed a training program for our Croatian colleagues, where it's a lot learning by doing. So we let them throughout the 2-day course perform their own innovation procurement projects, and that has proven both very fun and interesting, and I think it's a very good template for skills building for new countries. That will, of course, be also possible for us to see if we can't make something similar take place in Georgia. But we'll have to then see, how can we format this in order for it to be available for us, because it's also demands a bit of preparations and so on. But it's something we, of course, will be very open to discussing with you.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Both for a good question and a good answer. I can't actually see the question and answers in my teams. My teams have a bad day from a technical perspective. But Emanuela, you have an overview of the questions, I guess.
Yes, thanks, Jakob. Happy to step in, and thank you, Kaka, also for the great questions, and Magna for your responses. I'm happy to share any links and resources that we're now sharing in the chat after the event, or if need be, connect participants. So please feel free to reach out. I see we have a question from one of our colleagues, Bunyod. Bunyod, please feel free to maybe ask the question yourself. If not, I can read it out for you.
Yes, hello everybody. I have just quick question. First of all, Mr. Magna, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation with a lot of insights and facts. You have mentioned about that you are planning to work on using AI to boost and improve this public procurement for innovation. Could you share more information about it? Yes, how it can help and what exactly will be the job of AI? I cannot hear.
Sorry. Yes. The way we're using AI in this case is actually to track the number of innovation procurements taking place. Because, for example, when we then have a competitive procedure, that can be many reasons for using that procedure, and it's in order for us to know whether it was used for innovation purposes, we need to enter into each single contract documents and see are they asking for innovation, and then that has proven very difficult. So we're using AI for more easily establishing a qualified overview of how many of procurements in Norway have innovations as a part of their scope. So that's the way we use innovation. So it's monitoring every procurement that is being published, scanning it, looking for any signs of innovation and how that innovation has been included. And then we can get very detailed reports on the way public sector is using procurements for innovation purposes. That is something that hasn't been available to us before and would prove very useful for us. So that's the way we sort of use it to track the status quo of innovation procurement. So we, as such, we don't use it to foster public innovation, but of course the information we find, all the examples of how you use award criteria, how you use contract formulas in order to provide information on innovation is very important. And we think this way forward is better than for example, the surveys that a lot of other countries use. Not to criticize that approach in any way, but for example, our Finnish colleagues, they have a survey whether the question is this product or solution new for your organization, and they answer yes, and they track it as innovation. But at the same time, this can be that this is the first time we buy company cars for our organization. It's still being monitored and tracked as innovation. So Finland say that we have 11% of our procurements are innovation. We think that that number is maybe a bit biased, and we hope that this AI approach might prove more useful to track the actual number of innovation procurements.
And in your case, in Norwegian case, how AI is defining innovation?
Well, that's what we're training the model to do now, and establishing a lot of different ways of understanding innovation, and it's very, actually already now it's very good. It doesn't count when, for example, a procurement says that our municipality is very innovative and performs future focused services for our citizens. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the procurement, but the language models now, they're so complex and so good that the context of the use of the word innovation or any word related to innovation, for example, piloting, testing, prototyping, development, all of these, put it into context and see, is the scope of this actually procurement, or is it just the word used for some other purpose? And we see very promising results on that, but it's still being developed and tested now, but hopefully towards the end of the year, we'll have a model which is working good enough. So, but this is also new for us, so it's sort of a project in development. It's already in place for procurement of sustainable solutions, and there it's proven hugely important to, for example, track the public procurers' use of a new legislation saying that if not otherwise, if not unimportant or unavailable, every procurement should have an award criteria for sustainability at 30%. And with this solution, we can track all the ones that don't have it, and we can then contact them and have that dialogue on how to include it as soon as possible. So we see multiple purposes for this solution.
Thank you very much, and good luck with your very complex work.
Thank you.
This is very interesting, Magna. I think all of us are very keen to follow the development on how to use AI in this perspective. We want to end at past. Emanuela, do we have any more questions that at least one question that could be answered fairly quickly? Do you believe?
Yes, we have a question from Len.
Hi, thanks, Emanuela. Thanks, Jakob. Magna, thanks very much for a very interesting talk, and also my Georgian colleagues. Just a very quick question, Magna. I was interested in your comment on skills development being a barrier. And I also heard you talk about innovation ecosystems being very important for skills development, and also encouraging learning by doing in your interactions with Croatia, I believe it was. I'm just wondering, are there any other things within a skills development strategy that you're thinking of to scale up the skills base that you're working with? And particularly, not so much learning by doing, but say things around mindset change, anything along those lines that you can talk to?
Yes, we try to provide changing that mindset by often sort of using the examples and sort of not necessarily only the examples of that of the success stories, although hugely important and very motivating for others also to see, for example, when we use cases of small municipalities also taking a role in innovation procurement, cooperative efforts between small municipalities and so on, just communicating that has an effect with regards to lowering that threshold and that skepticism on this is not for me, but also communicating when things go wrong and just lowering that, you know, sense of perfection that I think a lot of them have, because that's sort of what they've been measured on when they're doing traditional procurements. And although not, you know, letting everyone embark on projects that go wrong and say we shouldn't learn from this, but then just opening up for this is nature of the game. And no matter how perfect your project is from a procurement perspective, you can never guarantee the successful development of new solutions. So that itself is I think the most important things we do on that of changing the mindset. As part of skills development, we see we've tried a bit of that of trying to develop e-learning tools on innovation procurement and so on, but we see that the market for such e-learning tools are limited, and then rather use the ones that have been developed in an EU context rather than developing our own. That's sort of I'd say the way we approach that.
Thank you very much, Magne, for that answer, and thank you very much both to Team Georgia and Team Norway for contributing to this seminar. I clearly can hear we have a lot to continue to discuss, and I'm really looking forward to jointly develop a policy paper. And I think we will address, for example, the need for skill development and how to do that and really disseminate this knowledge out in the field. How to learn from each other on country level, and of course, how can we start measuring effects in a better way? And the runner-up when it comes to interesting issues, can we use AI in a smarter way to enhance innovation, enhancing procurement? So by that, we are half past something, depending on where in the world you are. Some of us are approaching lunch, others might approach end of the working day, I don't know. But I really would like to thank you all, both you contributors and also you who participated in this seminar. I also want to advertise that we will have yet another seminar, and correct me if I'm wrong, Emanuela, it's 19th of June, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Same time on the 19th.
19th of June. And that's also a very good moment to continue to discuss those issues. I'm quite sure that we will once again touch upon this. So thank you very much for this time, and meet you all in the 19th of June. Same time, same channel on Teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you also from our side. See you soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.